data. So in that case the process has to leave this run state, since it can proceed further only when it has the data available. So it goes to take the data from hard disk, and since hard disk being very slow device in comparison to RAM, it may happen that there may be some other process which are already occupying this hard disk, and it can be accessed serially only. So even if this process P1 may be the first one getting the chance of reading the data from hard disk, it will take some time, but during that period this microprocessor will not be sitting idle. What will happen? The next process in the queue then will be allocated to the microprocessor, and that process will also change its state from ready to run state. Now as and when the process P1, which was earlier interrupted because of lack of data, is taking the data, so it is again moving and getting added to the rear side of the queue. So once again it will wait for its turn to come. So as and when the processes are changing or moving from ready to run state, this P1 is also getting shifted to upward, and at some point of time it will also come to the front side and it will get the chance of getting executed once again. So when we say that the process P1 has come to this state, here what it is doing? It is taking the data, and because of that only it is waiting for completion or making that data available to us. Or it may also be possible that when P1 is trying to take the data, some other process are already queued and only one process can get the service of this hard disk. So other process are again in waiting state. So it may be possible that at this state also we are having a number of processes, they are waiting for their turn. So here also we can have a queue, and that queue is normally referred to as wait queue. So here all those processes which are waiting for their turn, they are just waiting, and as and when they are getting services, they are getting added to the end of this queue. Eventually it may also happen that this process is very small in size. So within 5 microseconds it is completing its execution, and if it completes its execution, then what will happen? It may move to a state which is called terminate state. And what is the end result of this terminate state? The person who has actually submitted this process or who has actually executed the corresponding command on his terminal, he or she may be getting the corresponding result on the screen. So this is happening exactly what when we execute any command. Let us suppose my command is CMD. When I press enter, I get some output of this command on the screen, and once again I get dollar prompt on the screen. So this outcome we get only when the process is terminated, because it has completed its execution and now it is terminated. Okay. So this entire thing is called process life cycle. So if any command we are executing, and let us suppose the last alphabet that we have typed on the command line and we pressed enter, that we did at delta t1 second, and the first character of the result we got at delta t2 second. So delta t2 minus delta t1 will be the total time taken by this command for execution, but not for the entire duration the command kept executed. Why? Because the corresponding process might be moving from ready to run to wait, and wait to ready multiple times. So it may happen that exactly out of these 10 microsecond, let us suppose this duration is 10 microsecond. So out of these 10 microsecond, the process might complete its execution within 4 microsecond once it has got the microprocessor available to us solely. But since multiple processes are there, and if time quantum is lesser than 4 microsecond, then everybody has to get the chance. So because of that only this process is moving from run to ready, run to wait, and wait to ready multiple times, and ultimately it is completing its execution, and when it completes the execution it shows the result on the screen. So this complete cycle is called process life cycle. So now we can imagine that we may be having a scenario where we are having a mini or mainframe computer, and to that computer a number of terminals are connected, and different users are doing different kind of jobs on every terminal, but all the jobs they are getting commonly coming to the same single computer, which is mini computer, and there only they are getting executed. And as and when any one of them is completing their execution, the result is shown on the corresponding terminal. So those users who are sitting on different terminals which are referred to as dumb terminal I just narrated, so every user has this illusion that he is simply executing the command and getting the result. There is no difference you can see between the system which is booted with DOS or the terminal which is connected to the Unix machine. You are simply submitting the command and getting the result on the screen, and we are never having this kind of impression that my program is not the single program which is getting executed on this machine. Rather, there are multiple programs which are competing along with my program, and eventually my program is completing its execution. But since you know that the time quantum is in microseconds, so we practically get the result in the same way as we get on any kind of terminal. I mean, we are just simply typing the command, pressing the enter, and we get the result coming on the screen. So this is true in case of single user, in case of multi-user, but the advantage of multi-user is enormous in comparison to single user, because in single user it is happening that many time intervals the microprocessor has nothing to do, so it is sitting idle, not doing anything, whereas microprocessor, being very precious resource of any computer, is considered to be very precious resource and should be busy at all the time. So that is possible only when we are having multiple programs for execution for that microprocessor, so that we can keep it busy, so that when one process is interrupted because of certain things, so that process is just leaving the microprocessor and some other process is getting the chance. So by this way we can keep the microprocessor busy and we can improve the utilization of microprocessor. So this is the advantage of multi-user setup. But of course, in case of Windows, even if it is a single user operating system, we are using, as I told you, that we may be having Windows 95 lower version. So there we may be having a single user, but multitasking feature is there. So still, if you compare Windows with DOS, so you will see that here we are improving the busyness of microprocessor, because multiple tasks you can initiate. So the scenario may be multiple programs, but the only difference is all these programs are belonging to the same user, whereas in case of mini or mainframe computer booted with Linux operating system, we have the scene where all the programs are submitted by different users, and it is also possible that as a single user I can exploit multitasking feature and I can submit a number of programs on this Linux booted machine. So with this, the concept of process is over, and now we can see how we can show these processes are created in the RAM and how these processes are interacting with each other by passing the messages. Okay. So this all we can study as part of system call programming, and that I just told you that C is the suitable language for that purpose, because it includes the feature of high level and low level. So by the way, when we do system call programming, we are exploiting the low level feature of C language.